This is Immuno Africa, a podcast dedicated to spotlighting African immunology research.
The first edition of the Immunology in Africa podcast graduate student series seeks to spotlight the motivations, journeys, and perspectives of African graduate students in immunology while highlighting their amazing contributions to the field. It offers our listeners an opportunity to explore and keep tabs on the inspiring works of young African scientists in the early phases of their careers, especially those keen on strengthening the continent's capacity for scientific research, growth, and development. For this first series, we spoke with 6 graduate students pulled from 5 African countries whose research spans a rich diversity of viral diseases, vaccine development, cancer, obesity, autoimmunity, and allergies. The stories told here portray self-motivation, initiative, resilience, hard work, excellence, consistency, growth, discipline, planning, and patience. These stories offer valuable insights and lessons to young and emerging scientists interested in building a career in immunology, as well as established scientists in the field. Our first guest is Richard Adeleke. Richard Adeleke trained as a veterinarian at the University of Ibadan, Nigeria, where he first took an interest in immunology and vaccine development. He is currently a PhD student in immunology and infectious diseases at Cornell University, United States, and works in Professor Hector Aguilar Carreno's lab. His research centers around vaccine development for viruses with pandemic potential, specifically SARS and MERS coronaviruses. He also studies virus host interactions and immune responses to vaccination. Outside the lab, he enjoys watching movies and meeting new people from diverse backgrounds. Let's know who Richard Adeleke is, and what he has been up to.
I'm Richard Adeleke. I'm from Nigeria. I'm currently a PhD student at Cornell University. My major is immunology and infectious diseases. So I actually have a DVM degree. I obtained my Doctor of Veterinary Medicine degree from University of Ibadan in Nigeria back in 2021. And then I moved to the US to start my PhD 2022 at Cornell. So basically, my interest is in infectious diseases, specifically viruses, and vaccine development and immunology.
Okay, infectious disease, vaccine, and viruses. Okay, so
infectious disease, viruses specifically, then vaccine and immunology.
Like viral diseases, viral infectious diseases.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So what got you interested in immunology research? So like of course, from what you just said, you basically commenced your PhD shortly after you left the university for your first degree. So what drew your attention, or what stuff in immunology glued you to the area of research? Yeah. So why did you choose immunology of several other things?
Yeah. So during my 4th year in vet school, I took classes in immunology, and that kind of like spiked my interest in immunology. And also in vet school, we were trained as clinicians, but as well we took classes in virology, microbiology, and that very moment in my life was I was able to like decide, oh, this is what I'm going to do. That sparked my interest, those classes in immunology. And then there is this particular disease in dogs, canine parvovirus, causes gastroenteritis in dogs, and we do have like a lot of cases of canine parvovirus in our small animal clinic. But the main challenge with that virus infection in Nigeria is that there are different strains, different subtypes of the virus. But the challenge is we vaccinate with the vaccine that we use back in Nigeria is actually, most of them are imported vaccines. And we actually vaccinate with a strain that is not really circulating in Nigeria.
Oh, okay.
So that's a big problem for us veterinarians. So we constantly get like there's high incidence of canine parvovirus infection in dogs. So I was like, oh, I think I should work on vaccine development. And then the classes I took in immunology as well, plus saying that kind of like boosted my interest in research. And then so following those experiences, so I reached out to one of my professors in vet school. He's a professor of virology, and I was like, okay, I think I want to start working as a research assistant, like assisting with your research. And then we started working on um arboviruses
Okay.
in animals. So we worked on Japanese encephalitis virus. We tried to like check the serum prevalence in pigs. They were not really so robust studies, but all those little experiences kind of like boosted my interest in immunology, in infectious diseases. And then I was able to intern at the African Center of Excellence for Genomics of Infectious Diseases uh, under the mentorship of Professor Api. So, and all those experiences, they kind of like built, or like the experiences built up and then boosted my interest in immunology research. That's why I applied to graduate school.
Interesting. So I think from the the narrative you just presented, like I think one core theme I'm seeing there is that you identify the problem, and that's kind of okay, how can we solve this problem? So I think it's
Yeah.
and it's a very interesting problem, because I think there's been this conversation around developing vaccines, Africans developing their own vaccines, vaccines that we can use because of the experience with COVID. And to think that one would expect, or just think that, okay, this problem is only with humans. We don't even know that even animals are also suffering similar challenge that we're having with vaccines.
It's very, 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 it's a big problem.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, interesting. So I think the next thing I want to ask about is what your current work is. So what are you working on in your lab now? So you already mentioned that your work revolves around viral diseases and immunology. So, and also you're looking into developing vaccines. So what disease or what immune cells? So just give us an overview of your current work in grad school.
No, thank you. So basically the focus of my lab, I'm in Professor Hector Aguilar Carreno's lab. So the focus of our lab is, so we have three main focus, vaccine development, antiviral development, and virus entry. So my project is mainly focused on developing vaccines for enveloped viruses. So currently I'm working on developing a combined vaccine for SARS-CoV-2 and influenza virus. So it's like it's basically like a bivalent vaccine, a single vaccine that can protect against these two viruses simultaneously. They have similar patterns of transmission. They have similar route of seasonal route of spread within the mammalian system, and I think like a single vaccine will be highly beneficial for both viruses. And also I'm working on developing like a pan-coronavirus vaccine. So there is this, before SARS-CoV-2 came out, I mean COVID-19, there were two outbreaks of coronaviruses that happened. One in 2012, that was Middle East Respiratory Syndrome coronavirus, that's MERS. And then there was another outbreak in 2003, SARS-CoV-1. That was actually the first SARS-CoV-1. That was actually the first highly pathogenic coronavirus outbreak. That was in 2003. So SARS-CoV-1 and Middle East MERS, they have higher mortality rates than SARS-CoV-2. And there's actually no approved vaccine, no approved antiviral for these two viruses. And actually, these two viruses, they have high pandemic potential. They can result into a pandemic in the nearest future. So my goal is to be prepared, like it's like pandemic preparedness. So I'm trying to develop a pan-coronavirus vaccine, like a single vaccine that can elicit immune response against these three viruses simultaneously. So we actually have a robust platform in our lab that can allow us to do that. So we are currently in the phase of optimizing, and then so basically what we do is once we make the vaccine in the lab, we test in animal models. So we inject the animal models and then we check for immune response if they are going to produce neutralizing antibodies against, we make like pseudovirus. So basically, so the immunology part of it is we try to like check the correlates of immune protection. So following vaccination, we check for neutralizing antibody production, and then we challenge with the live virus. And then we can assess the correlates of immune protection by trying to like assess the immune cells that are actually responsible for conferring immunity against those virus infection. So basically, that's what I'm doing right now in vaccine development. So I'm also trying to explore antiviral development as well. That's not immunology, but then antiviral development is also very, very, very key. But we all know that vaccines are actually our surest bet in the fight against emerging pathogens. So that's actually why I'm working on a bivalent vaccine for SARS-CoV-2 and influenza, and then a pan-coronavirus vaccine for SARS-CoV-2, SARS-CoV-1, and MERS. So those are the current projects I'm actually handling in the lab.
So basically you're working on like you have two major projects. So one for a vaccine that can simultaneously protect against two diseases. So influenza and the popular COVID.
Yeah.
And then the second one is a vaccine. A vaccine for the three coronaviruses that have shaken the world a bit. So MERS, SARS-CoV-1, and the recent outbreak, SARS-CoV-2. Okay. Yeah. So well done. So I think I was just thinking that I was going to ask you this question. Do you still get to work with animals in grad school, or is just lab work and reagents?
Yeah. Oh no, that's a good question. So as a veterinarian, actually, I was worried about losing my clinical experience. Like basically in the lab, what you do is like all you do is making cocktails, like you pipette liquid.
Yeah.
You understand what I mean? You play with liquid. Yeah. But then, so because I'm doing vaccine research, I actually work with animal models. I work with mice, different transgenic mice models. We have different mice models that express human H2, that express receptor for Middle East respiratory syndrome coronavirus. So I actually work with animal models. And so there's another project in our lab that is currently run by an undergraduate student. She's working on developing a vaccine for Ebola, Nipah virus, and Hydra virus. So we test those vaccines in mini pigs.
Okay.
So we use mini pigs. We use mini pigs for actually checking immune response to those vaccines. So I work with mini pigs too. So at least I'm working with animals.
So from your journey, it was about an interest in developing vaccine for a disease that affects dogs, and the vaccine we have in Nigeria is not really, let me say, it's not relevant to our setting, because the strains that are spreading here are not the strains that the vaccines are effective against. So and your work into coronaviruses. So I think we should let's bring Africa into the big picture, and how you think your work and your research, maybe your work specifically, your current work in grad school, maybe your the broad perspective of your research into developing vaccines, and how you feel the continent Africa can benefit from it, perhaps now, but also in the near future.
Yeah, that's a good question. So we all know that the global south, we have a very big challenge when it comes to vaccine development. I mean, we are way behind. Look at the COVID-19 outbreak. We had to wait. Like we actually received, the vaccines that we received in Africa, they were like remnants of, you understand what I mean? So the global south actually needs like a much more robust capacity in terms of vaccine development. So my project is actually mainly focused on benefiting the global south, Africa. Because aside from developing the vaccine itself, I'm actually exploring ways to actually make the vaccine thermotolerant. To improve the thermotolerance of the vaccine. Because we don't have a robust cold chain platform. So lyophilization is basically like you freeze down the vaccine, and then so it can stay longer at room temperature, and even at temperatures higher than room temperature.
Okay.
So because we don't have a robust we don't have good, established platform for vaccine development in Africa. A bivalent vaccine is actually highly beneficial to Africa in general, because the vaccination schedule is actually already complicated. So imagine we have a single vaccine that can protect against these two seasonal viruses. It should be highly beneficial. And also imagine we have a single vaccine that can protect against Middle East, SARS-CoV-1 and SARS-CoV-2. It should be also highly beneficial compared to having them in different platforms.
Yeah.
In the multiple platforms. So I think if this works out well, this is still, I mean, all my projects are still in like the preliminary phase.
Yeah, that's
so.
True.
But then my end goal is to actually make positive impacts. It's to actually make positive impact on I mean infectious disease transmission in Africa generally.
In the continent, Interesting. Yeah. You already explained what it means to lyophilize samples, so to kind of freeze them so they can last longer even at room temperature, above room temperature, because of the challenge we have with storage here in Africa. There are issues with light, there are issues with so many other infrastructure for preservation and related activities in laboratory settings. So I think perhaps I just wanted to ask, because I think the whole idea of creating kind of, let's say, merging vaccines to that will be effective against more than one disease has been explored for since several decades ago, where maybe these vaccines are given to this set of children. Let's just combine them, like the MMR vaccine for measles, mumps, and rubella. And I think there were a couple of other examples too. So just maybe people who might be concerned about, okay, why don't you give me one? Why do I have to take 3 of them at once? So are there any concerns? Are there any adverse effects or anything that I should be concerned about, that you want to I want one vaccine, but you are giving me 3 in one? Like, why should I not be worried that you are giving me 3 vaccines in one? So let's just comment on that a bit. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's a good question. So our vaccine platform is actually not a live virus.
Okay.
So it's basically a pseudovirus. Like it's like a pseudoparticle. So basically, you have a pseudovirus that has the glycoprotein, I mean the immunogenic glycoprotein of these 3 viruses on a single pseudovirus. So the virus is actually not replication competent. The job of the vaccine vector is actually to just deliver the virus glycoproteins, and then your the antigen presenting cells can recognize the glycoproteins of the 3 different viruses on the pseudovirus. So you have a vaccine vector expressing the glycoproteins of these 3 different viruses.
Okay.
So that's the concept. So the main goal is actually to just present these glycoproteins to the immune system. And the key advantage of that is, on a single virion, I mean the pseudovirus itself, you have multiple glycoproteins expressed, and then that can enhance like the B cell receptor clustering, and then enhance the immune response against the various glycoproteins. So you have spike of Middle East, you have spike of SARS-CoV-1, you have spike of SARS-CoV-2 on a single pseudovirus particle. So that's the concept. So it is not infectious. So you just deliver the antigens, and then your immune cells are activated, and then there is that elicits immune response, antibody production against the different viruses.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. You're almost taking us to the lab, but so so I think the whole idea is that so the major thing that we are trying to get is what aspect of these viruses are important to help our immune system to fight back. So we are just making them. So nobody should be worried whether they're giving you 3 vaccines.
There is no live virus. So
2 vaccines in one.
The immunodominant portion of the virus, which is the spike protein of these 3 different viruses, just combine them and then you administer. It is not replication competent. It is safe and
So vaccines are safe. This vaccine, whether it's a merger of multiple so what word do I use now? Virus glycoproteins or antigens, like so it doesn't matter whether it's one or multiple. So the whole idea is that our immune systems are trained to respond better to the diseases.
Yes.
So how is a typical day like for you in the lab? What do you do in the lab, and what kind of experiments do you run, and which ones you just force yourself to run, or the ones that you actually enjoy running? So a day in Richard's life in the lab, or how do I put it? So just talk to us about that.
So basically when I get to the lab, I actually I'm an early person, so I get up way early. So I get to the lab around 8 a.m. every day. I'm kind of like consistent with that. So I get to the lab. So before I actually go to the lab, I already have a plan of what I want to do each day. Or do I want to do cell culture today? Do I want to do Western blots? Do I want to do bacteria prep, like, or do I want to do animal work or something? So I always have a plan. So once I get to the lab, I jump into that. And another cool thing is I'm always with my AirPods. So I'm always trying to like avoid conversations because sometimes you can't always like, you can't control yourself. Like once somebody stimulates like a conversation, you keep on going and going and going and going, and then that takes your time. And so basically what I do is do my lab work, and then after I can work for long hours actually. So after working for like 3 4 hours, I take a break, go on lunch break, then I go back. And what I do mostly is I don't really do a lot of paperwork, maybe like reading and writing in the lab.
Okay.
So most of that I do that at home actually. So I go to the lab, work all day. Then when I get back home, I relax and then try to like do some reading or some writing. So that's basically what I do. I spend most of the day working in the lab, which is it's not so healthy, but that's just the way I am. Like I work throughout the day, go back home, relax, then start reading or writing stuff before I sleep, and then the cycle continues. So that's just the way I am. So the technique I like the most actually is I actually like Western blot.
Okay.
It is actually a very long process, but it's actually very interesting. It's a very interesting technique, but it tells you, oh, your protein is present or not. So another technique I like is flow cytometry.
Okay.
So flow cytometry is basically to check for markers on cells, like you detect specific markers on cells using antibodies that can identify those markers, or you can identify glycoproteins as well using antibodies that can bind to those proteins on the surface of the cell. So yeah, those are my two favorite techniques.
Okay, what of least favorites?
Least favorite?
Yes.
Well, I will say blood collection from animal models. Yeah, it's
Okay.
although I'm a vet, but it's a very I always feel emotional. Like every time I'm collecting blood samples from our animal models, because I'm always, I don't know, it's just me. So yeah, it's a lot of work.
Maybe all vets feel that way. I can't say. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for sharing those with us. I just hope that the individuals that now hear that when Richard's airports are on, Richard is not playing music. I hope they are not going to come for you. I hope they are not going to come for you.
That's a little secret.
Okay, yeah. Thank you for sharing it. Yeah, so I think so something I'm seeing from your experience, like of course I feel from what you said that you actually enjoy what you are doing in the lab, and that's why you can spend long hours there and not bother about you don't want to be distracted, and you're not bothered about any other thing when you are in the lab. And so I think it's something we can learn. I can learn, and I think several other people can learn. Of course, different strokes for different folks, but if it's not going to give you a give into doing lab work while you're in the lab, and if there's another technique or method that you feel is more comfortable with you, I think it's okay to also run with what works for you, right? So thank you so much for sharing that. So so you just mentioned that you spend so much time in the lab, like maybe when you're in the lab you just do lab work. So how do you unwind? How do you rest?
Before I answer that, so just going back to why I work so long in the lab. So I have this perspective of so my principle is, so the harder I work, the luckier I get. Because most times when you do stuff, you don't know if they're going to work. So I just try to like, let me work hard and I might just be lucky. So yeah, so that's why I actually work long hours. So
working hard. Sorry. So like you're basically saying that working hard increases your chance of increases your chance for luck of being lucky. Yeah. So I think that's a golden quote we should just get as an excerpt
Yeah,
from this. Yeah, thank you for sharing it. Yeah,
yeah,
please go
yeah.
ahead.
The other you work, the luckier you get.
Yeah.
So yeah. So unwinding. So basically, what I do is I when I get back home, sometimes when I'm so tired, I just go straight to Netflix. I watch movies, and then I actually like going on vacation. I actually just go back from California, so
Mm.
yeah. So I like going on vacation, and then what else do I do? And also I use TikTok a lot.
Okay.
Yeah,
But you
I don't post on
okay, you
TikTok,
don't post.
but I
Okay,
don't.
I was going to ask.
Yeah, I don't post. I have never posted anything on TikTok, but I
Okay.
just go on TikTok and I
Yeah,
just keep
just
watching, and then I laugh, and then
yeah,
that's
just
basically what I do. And then
catching fun.
yeah, and then if I'm not doing all of that, I like reading books as well. So I just finished 48 Laws of Power by Robert
Mm.
Greene. So I like reading books as well. So yeah, like
Mm.
books outside research, not
Yeah, yeah,
research like
yeah.
oh something research, like reading
Okay.
books outside research. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think you had to clarify so people will not think you're talking about
No.
immunology textbooks and
No.
biology
No. I mean
textbooks.
books.
Yeah,
I mean
yeah,
books
yeah,
outside research.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's cool. So basically, I think I should ask now that have you had maybe an episode of okay, I should not have if you've had, I think kind of general convention that it's normal. So maybe an episode of a field experiment and or maybe an experiment that was quite successful. How did you celebrate and uh how did you mourn the failure? Let me put it that way.
Yeah. So there's one thing I do most times. So when things work,
Yeah.
I get so excited, and then I tell people around like, oh,
Mm,
I mean my lab mates, oh, this worked, I did this, I did that, this worked, this is what I got. Or I tell my advisor, my supervisor, oh, this is what I got. And also when things fail, I also tell people
mm.
because because when you share your failures with people, oh, this is what happened, blah blah blah. I'm not happy with this outcome. They encourage you. They also
Yeah.
like it's like a communal stuff. Like everybody experience failure,
Mm-hmm.
but then when you hide it and then you keep on I mean when you hide it from from people, it is actually not a good thing. That's actually my perspective about failure. So I share my failure as well with people. Oh, this is what I did, and then the things turned out this way. And then they also share their experience as well. Oh, I also experienced this, and then you kind of like feel encouraged that we are all in the same boat.
Yeah.
And then you don't like look down on yourself and you'll be like, okay, I'll keep pushing. So you get encouraging words from people. We all need each other. Like I see that everything takes a village.
Yeah.
So I share my success with people when I get excited, and then my failure as well. I also share with people so I can see. And most times people give me their perspective as well. Oh, why can't you do this? Why can't you do things differently? Like do it this way, do
Yeah.
it this way. Why can't you try this? Why can't you try that? So that's what I do basically. I try to like share with people to get ideas from people and also to know that I'm not the only one experiencing this.
Mm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's the way I handle it. Yeah,
I think that's a great tip, like the idea of sharing, right? So if it's
yeah,
successful, share. If it's not successful, take the burden off
yeah,
yourself and just spread the
yeah,
burden, spread the joy,
yeah,
spread the burdens, just spread
yeah,
everything that spread your experiences so people can
yeah,
advise you if you need an advice or even celebrate with you if it's something worth
yeah,
celebrating. Yeah, thank
yeah,
you for sharing that. So I think somehow you talked on your a kind of guiding principle for you that you believe it's important to work really hard because that also increases your chances of becoming lucky. Hard work
yeah,
makes you more prepared to make use of opportunities or access those blessings or whatever it is when you encounter them.
yeah,
So is there any other thing you want to chip in about something that guides you as a person, your guiding principles or things that
yeah.
you like to be known for? Yeah.
Yeah. So another thing is intrinsic motivation. So when you so at every wrote, I'm always trying to remember why I started.
Mm.
Like, oh, at this point, there is no going back.
Yeah.
I always remember, oh, why are you even doing this research? Why are you even in graduate school? Like, try to remember everything you wrote in your personal statement when you were applying. Like, okay, like, why? That's intrinsic motivation keeps me going. So that's like a big guiding principle for me. Like, always have this, as individuals, we should always have this intrinsic motivation. Like, we should be internally motivated.
Yeah.
So once you always remember why you started, that keeps you going. And also another thing is consistency, which is like it's either you go hard or you go home. Like
Mm.
you have to be you have to be really like consistency is like a principle for me. Like back in vet school, even till now, I'm actually a consistent person. So I like to like, oh, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. So consistency, intrinsic motivation, and hard work.
Mm.
Those are like guiding principles for me.
Mm.
So yeah.
Interesting. So consistency, let me re-emphasize it. So it will also become immersed into my mind. So consistency, intrinsic motivation, and hard work. I think those are really,
Yeah.
really, really interesting principles that
Yeah.
other persons can learn from. So they need to,
Yeah.
you define your consistency as either you go hard or you go home. Don't just be
Yeah.
don't be doing it up,
If,
just you are here today, you
yeah.
are there tomorrow. So just make sure you're
Yeah.
always going hard. So if you're not going hard, just go home and go and rest or go and do something else. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that. So I think I really I'm enjoying the conversation, of course, but I think I really love how you started with your experience getting into immunology and infectious diseases research, that you saw a problem that with vaccines for a disease that affected dogs, and you wanted to see what can we do about it. Let me contribute to this area. Let me contribute to this field. So that was something that really made you feel, okay, immunology will help me make the kind of contributions I want to make. So now you're in grad school, and I think that has given you even a deeper understanding. It doesn't matter that you're not doing your taking your PhD in Africa, but the exposure you've gotten, there's that understanding of what Africa, the challenges that Africa is grappling with. So maybe you had an understanding of the challenges before you left, but I think that exposure has made you see, okay, how severe or how whether the challenges are being overblown or they are even being underestimated. So you now have a kind of clearer picture of you've experienced both research in this part in the global south and also in the US. So what to you are some of the pressing challenges or important issues that the continent has to tackle as as a young scientist who in the field of immunology and infectious disease? So what are the things you think we need to give attention to, the things we are not giving attention to that we should be giving attention to in the continent at this time? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So one key thing is just one word: funding.
Okay.
Because funding, like so, with funding, with good funding, you can achieve almost anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's one key thing. So in Africa, we need to like, I mean, the government, like generally, like all over the continent, we need to prioritize research because that should like imagine our priorities are actually way off. That's just the way I see it.
Mm.
So if we actually prioritize research, we are even going to attract people from all over the world to Africa. Because look at Africa. Africa is a land of opportunities because majority of these diseases, I mean, majority of these diseases that cause global pandemic and majority of these of global health importance, they actually originate from Africa. If you look at it from a global perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So funding is a key thing. Like if our government, I mean, government of different countries can actually increase research funding, I mean, the allocation to research to education, we're actually going to go a long way and we're going to move fast. We have a lot of smart people in Africa. Like, we have a lot of smart people in Africa. But because there is no resources, that's why people are they are going to places where they have more opportunities. So if we can actually like enlarge and like increase our capacity in terms of research, much more people are even going to be willing to stay back in Africa and actually do some meaningful work. But then we don't have opportunities, we don't have the funding, we don't have the platform to do what we want to do. So if we actually have an established, like much more efficient, much more established and much more efficient system, we are going to attract people from outside. Believe me, we are going to attract people from outside Africa into Africa. Like people actually will even want to come to Africa. So the key problem is funding. I think, placing priority on research and allocating more resources to research.
Yeah. So I think I wouldn't disagree with that, because the whole idea of investing in research, I think it's something that we, the government and maybe individuals too, we don't give so much attention to, because I think if you remember during COVID, when COVID came, I think there was this investment by some of the richest people in Africa. They just got money from nowhere that they wanted
exactly.
to
Why can't that be done? Why can't that be done before COVID
beforehand?
We have the resources. We have the resources. We just have to start from somewhere. Like we don't have to start in a year or something. It's a long process, but then we have to keep pushing our investment towards research and education.
Yeah, that's true. So thank you so much for everything you've shared, and thank you for honoring the invitation once again. I've been laughing and laughing. So because you really have an interesting story and also inspiring, and I'm really glad that we brought you here. And I think, like I mentioned when we started, I'm not sure if I mentioned it now, but something I really enjoy, I really love about this series is also because I'm hoping we can use it to keep tabs on the work of young scientists who are into immunology research. So it's, of course, there's this part of seeing people who are already maybe I've spent 10, 15 years, but I think it's something different when you watch, when you know when this person started, when they delve into immunology research, what they started with, and seeing them then being able to keep tabs on your work and your journey, the progression, and with for you, and of course for other person who will be bringing on the series. So thank you so much for everything you've shared. So is there if there's something you want to mention again before I take the last part of the episode? So something you want to mention that I didn't ask about, or an advice or something you just want to share?
Yeah. So basically what I want to mention, I want to actually encourage people from my background that there's actually I'm not a motivational speaker, but I actually want to just say that there is no height you cannot attain. You just have to go for it. Opportunities are very much available. They are very robust, but you don't have to look down on yourself or write yourself off. Just apply. There's nothing you cannot achieve. There's absolutely nothing you cannot achieve. Just put in the work, apply, and hope for the best. Even when things are not working, when things are not working, when you are failing multiple times, just don't stop. Because if you stop, then you have everything to lose. But if you don't stop, your chances, you still have chances of, getting something. But the moment you stop, you have everything to lose at that moment. But if you don't stop, at least you still have a chance. You still stand a chance. So the summary is, there's nothing you cannot achieve. Just keep pushing. Yeah.
So I'm smiling because you said you're not a motivational speaker, but you're already motivating us. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah. So there's nothing we can't, young people cannot do. I think one thing about being young is you have opportunities, you have you still have so many things, there are so many things that is yet unknown, years of life that you've not lived, experiences you've not had. So you have this ability to shape so many things in your life. So everyone, I think we should listen to each other and make sure we are, making the best of our lives. And receive this motivational talk from you, man, giving our best and not giving up too soon or giving up too early. Yeah. So thank you for mentioning that. So so the last part of this series, I'm going to give you a task, and if you get it, hopefully we'll give you an applause. If not, I think You choose the punishment I will give you. Okay, so the task you'll be doing is and I'm going to mention a word associated with the field of immunology, and you're going to spell it from the last letter to the first letter, kind of a reverse spelling for the word. So I'm going to think of a word now, and then we'll have a countdown. So I think we should do neutrophil. So neutrophil. So you spell it from the last letter to the first letter. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
LIHPORTUEN.
Okay, I think that was pretty simple. Was it too simple? It's scholar, so I'm not surprised. So thank you so much. So that's correct. So basically, neutrophils are a class of immune cells. I think they are white blood cells involved in mopping up
granulocytes.
Yeah, mopping up some
phagocytosis.
Mopping up bacteria and other stuff. So they eat them up, phagocytes. Thank you for mentioning that. So Richard has spelled neutrophil. So please give people the correct spelling. So before they think neutrophil is spelled from L.
Yeah, the correct spelling is NEUTROPHIL.
Yeah, so thank you so much for your time, and I think that's the end of the episode.
No worries. Wow, nice. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm actually glad I'm able to talk about my work and my interest and the things that motivate me. And thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I really appreciate the opportunity as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. So like I mentioned, so I would keep tabs with on your work and on your journey.
From the deliberate initiative it took to explore his curiosity and build his career as an undergraduate student, to the intrinsic motivation that now fuels his graduate research work, several aspects of Richard's journey stand out in this chat. As we await the life-saving vaccines he will develop to manage or avert pandemics in the coming years, we hope he keeps inspiring other young scientists, living his dreams and making the continent proud.
Thank you for listening to this episode on Immuno Africa. If you enjoyed it, please feel free to share it with your network. You will learn first about future episodes and get other immunology related updates by following Immuno_Africa or the Immunology in Africa podcast on social media. See you on the next episode. Bye.